The topic today is how do you deal with a situation, or how, let's say, your job negatively affects you. How do you deal with that situation? Being God fearing man, being a Christian. And when I say negative, I mean like, people just, it can be simple as people getting on your nerves, somebody irritating you. You got an irritating boss who just against you. Like we see like how the coach is with Shador Sanders, he just don't like him. Sometimes that just happens in a job, your managers and people don't like you, or you may have coworkers that may not like you, or God could, it could even be where God may not even want you to be at the job anymore. Like, you could be applying for certain things, and God say, nah, I don't want you here no more. So you could be like, man, why I ain't getting this position? Or why this ain't happening? Why that ain't happening? How do you deal with that in a positive way? Seemingly it could be negative, but how do you deal with it a positive way? Because it still is a test. Like, it's a test. Every time you go into a job, especially if it's a job that you don't care for, you know, um, how do you overcome stressing, or getting out of your keeping your emotions in check, and basically just leaning on the Lord Jesus. He said he'll never leave us and never forsake us. So, we know that, but it's at times we be like, man, Lord, why is it so hard to go to this job? Why is it so hard to go to this job? Why is these people doing this, doing that? It's a question that everybody, man or woman, deals with. So I
Mhm.
want to get y'all thoughts on it.
Right, right.
Whoever want to go,
You go,
you know.
you go
I'm
ahead,
taking
Nate.
notes myself.
That's a that's a good that's a good point. And you know, just like speaking from the heart, it's not the easiest to deal with, right?
Right.
Because you sometimes, and I can't speak for anyone else, but I can speak for myself from my experience, right? You can sometimes, like I know for me, sometimes after a certain while, it can feel like when you see the same thing over
Hmm.
and over again,
Yeah.
it can become like a sign that it's like time for you to, like you said, maybe move on from the job, right?
Hmm.
For me, like dealing with Amazon for during that time period, I had been felt like it was time for me to move on, right?
Right.
But I got so stuck in trying to make something work because
Hmm.
I was trying to. I felt that I'm like, man, if I just stick with it a little, I was loyal to a fault, when I knew because when something is no longer for you, it's like one thing I've been realizing, the Lord, until you realize and actually let that thing go, He'll let you sit in it, but you won't be comfortable in it.
Hmm.
But
Mm.
He'll let you stay there as long as you want, but you won't be comfortable. And it could be certain little things and situations that come up that are kind of nudge you into that direction. But I know that for me, I kept, during that time, it was like just frustrations after frustrations, you know. Then situations will come up, and maybe this will make me upset. And then dealing with people, I mean, just being real, we all human, right? So somebody, whether it be a boss or something like that, or a coworker, maybe one thing that they might have had a situation going on, you know, and maybe that spirit on them came to try to affect you, you know, because that's all it really is. That person probably doesn't know what they're doing. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But it's obviously a spirit, the devil, trying to affect you, right?
Yeah.
And I know for me, it's like not every time when I would face that, I handled it correctly. You know, sometimes whether that be you haul off and say the wrong thing at a person, you know, or your actions, you know, you know. So being human, it's gonna, things are gonna happen, right? And you know, but it's just being able to kind of, I guess, balance and, like you said, trusting the Lord, but not forcing yourself to stay somewhere where you no longer feel led to be,
Right, that's right.
So
Yeah.
that's the main thing I'll say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's real insightful, bro. It's for real, man. I definitely agree with everything you said. You hit it right on the head, bro. But
Yeah.
yeah, man,
Yeah.
blessing.
That's true. That's true. And
Hmm.
because I went through that with Kimberly Clark.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I mean, and so I can testify that what you're saying is true, and what both of y'all saying is true. You know,
Right.
um, and I because the thing you have to remember though, the Bible said, "When I do good, evil is not." You know,
Right.
so a lot of times you have to understand if something is negatively affecting you, you have to kind of identify what aspect is actually bringing the negativity. And like y'all was talking about whether it's the people, whether it's the job itself. You know what I mean? Sometimes you can get frustrated with what you're doing as well, you know, and it don't be the people, you know. So really you just kind of have to be able to, by the grace of God, identify what aspect of the job is negatively affecting you and how it is negatively affecting you. One
That's
thing you were saying, Jeremiah, is that it's a test, right?
hmm
So, and you said, you was like, how do you overcome? So those two words kind of stood out to me when you were talking, you
hmm
know, and and Nate, you was like, and you was basically saying repetition can become a sign, you know, like if something keep happening over and over and over again, it could be telling you something. It could be letting you know. And like you say, you could be loyal to a fault because inside of you is the ability to have stability, right? The ability to have stability.
mm
So because you want to be stable, because you want to be loyal, you just want to stay there and stick it out and you know.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about overcoming something, um, I think about the scripture when they talk about it said, this is the victory whereby we overcome the world,
Right.
even our faith,
That's
you
right.
know?
Yes, sir.
And, it is our belief and our trust in the Lord, but it's also faith is a revelation too.
That's right.
So in other words, it's like if you got a test in front of you, what you do, you take time to study for the test, and then what happens? Boom, you get a revelation.
That's
you know, and
Right.
yeah.
that's kind of how it is. If something's bothering us with the job, and that's what I had to do. I had to actually, and I know y'all experienced it too, but that's what I had to do when I was in KC. I had to spend time, actually praying about it and really understanding what's going on. You know what I mean? And what was going on in my body and what was going on in my spirit from all different aspects of the job is like the people didn't move to the job itself, you know? So it's like I had to come to that understanding and that revelation that, yeah, it was time to go because we are eagles, right?
Right.
So, so the dis every time an eagle experience discomfort, that shows that it's time for its elevation. You know, it's time for it to step into something that's another level. Okay. The eagle's first discomfort starts in the nest where the Bible talks about the eagle stirring the nest. The mother makes the nest uncomfortable so that the eagle can take flight. You know, you take away the furs so that the little thorns can stick it, make it want to leave the nest. But now it's starting to grow up, right? It's time for another level. So that's where we understand what we do sometimes. And I'm not saying it's like that for everybody, because sometimes things are character builders. That's why you have to have that understanding from the Lord, whether it's the season for you to move or something like that, because it might be building character, it might be testing your patience. But that's also elevation too. That's discomfort so that you can elevate in the area of patience. And different things like that. But, like I say, because God made us eagles, we have to look at our discomforts as opportunities for elevation. Whether that be to leave a situation that's causing it, it's still for elevation. Whether that be to stay, to overcome, in the area of character building, it's still an elevation. You know,
That's
but the
true.
main thing is to just really understand what it is for that you are to obtain for that season. What knowledge or revelation you are to obtain for that
Yeah.
season, so you can pass the test that these jobs and these situations are bringing.
Right.
And that was pretty much what I was thinking.
Uh,
Man, I tell you, man, that was deep, brother.
yes, sir.
That was some good. That was some good ones right there, man. I got some of those.
That was a good perspective and different than what and just like what you were saying about how uh pretty much it's a personal, so it might be different like for each person, right? How you were saying how it might be a season, depending on what season that you're in. Sounds very
Right.
impactful. It might be a season for you to leave, or it might be a season for you to stay. But either way it goes, it's working to elevation. That was high level.
Yeah,
Amen.
that was good, bro.
Amen.
Yeah,
That was good. I like that elevation part because that's what I always think when I'm going through a test. I'm like, man, how can I elevate above this? Like, what is the Lord really
Hmm.
trying to show me? Because,
Right.
like he said, like me and they work at Amazon. We know how them folks is up in there. It's no knock to the job, but it's just you have a lot going on at that job, man. And I know with Kimberly Clark, just with a plant job, it's so much different than like a retail job or like something like that, like plant job. Man, they come with so many different types of not only people but spirits,
Right.
and it's like you be trying to guard yourself, watch who you interact with, you got to make sure you
Hmm.
ain't getting into it with nobody, so you ain't got to go to HR, you got to, it's just
Right.
like, with them type of jobs, man, you got so many people that could be cool, but it's also a ton of people that just ain't there to they ain't there to be cool with nobody and nothing. And like me, I was really there just to get the money. I had kind of
Hmm.
drifted from talking to people for a little bit just to get the money, but it comes to a point where the money don't
Hmm.
matter, to be honest with you. It's like,
Right.
man,
Right.
I just don't like the atmosphere here. You know,
Right.
I gotta
Right.
go. I gotta find something else. You know, and then when it comes to people, you know, I try not to change up who I am. You know, around people, I try and be authentic myself. But even with that, like that can negatively impact you as far as like trying to be a people pleaser. You know,
Mhm.
like they say, don't give in to peer pressure. You know,
Mhm.
so people could be doing things around you, and it's like, man, that seemed cool, you know, and then you could kind of fall into it, and then sometimes you got to catch yourself, like, hold up, this ain't who I am. You know, why am I
Right.
acting this way, or why am I doing this or doing that? You know, and
Right.
it's not even a part of the real me. You know, it's a facade, you know, to put on to be accepted, really. You know,
Yeah.
and everybody go through it differently. You know, we all got our testimonies of certain things, you
Right.
know, but man, that's powerful. You know, how can you elevate? How can you elevate even in those type of circumstances? You know, that's something
Right.
I'm definitely gonna keep praying on. Even though I got a new outlet, I know the Lord gonna bless a new source of revenue. You know, a new job. But
Yeah.
even with that, man, and not just with the job, just in life in general. You know, just making sure we continue to elevate. You know, continue to
Right.
look at everything as a test. You know, from God. You know, because he gonna test us whether we think it's good or bad. He gonna test us. You know, he tests us every
Right.
day. You know, it's
Yeah,
really just us trusting and believing in him. You know, and
that's right.
continuously passing those tests and making sure that we also impact the people around us. You know,
Right.
be on the job or wherever. You know, you're gonna meet the most people at your job, but you know, how can we be of a positive influence? You never know. They could be thinking of it negatively just like we do, you know, and then they see we are a light and it's just like, man, you made my day with just saying, how you doing, you know? Hey, how you doing? God bless you, you know?
Man, I was thinking that, bro. I was thinking
Yeah,
that while you said that, I was thinking that. I was
yeah,
thinking how you when you handle situations, how they watch you. You know, they
right,
actually
right.
watch you. You know,
Yeah,
we written epistles read and don't involve men. So it's like people watch you and how you respond, and
that's
then
right.
they can take inspiration from it. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? So while you in that space, you know what I'm saying, and you elevating people, people actually can see. You know,
yeah. Lights
yeah,
into the world, man. You know?
that's right, that's right.
And I just thought of the next topic,
Mm,
Okay, take it on.
it all ties into what we was talking about, you know, the power of the mindset.
mm.
Ah,
That's a good one, bro.
oh man,
That's a good one, bro. That's gonna,
power
man,
of mindset.
you can go a lot with that one, ain't it?
Yeah,
You can go a lot of ways with that
I like
one.
that. I love
but
that topic. You need
because
to
I was
text that to the group too, Nate.
I
Yeah,
got you. Yeah, I'm gonna text that because I was thinking about that as you know as both of y'all were talking, you
yeah,
know, and so man, you know, that's gonna be a good topic because
That's
it
powerful.
ties into the conversation that we're having now, you know.
Right.
yeah. Even the one we had before.
Yeah,
Last week, yeah, that tie into that one too.
It was like
yeah,
a trio effect, man. It was all three of these tying together.
yeah.
Man, yeah.
I tell you what, man, that that's powerful. I can't wait. I can't
Yeah,
wait.
yeah, that's gonna be a good one right there. I like that one for real.
All right.
Yes, sir.